All right, I am super excited, super honored to have Lieutenant Colonel Oakland McCulloch here on the Move Happy Movement podcast and vlog. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, Erin, thank you for having me. I'm excited. I never turned down a chance to talk about leadership, and when you invited me, I was really excited.
Yay! And I always love to tell my audience, how I connect with people, because I feel like we can always learn and we can always teach. And if we can learn from each other, one of the things that we had connected through was on LinkedIn. That was how we had connected. And I can't remember if you messaged me first or vice versa, but I always love learning from people in the military, and especially officers. Like you have to run organizations and whatnot. And I was really attracted to, in your bio, you had over 40 years of leadership, and I believe we can always learn more, and especially from those that have spent a lot of time in leadership roles. So that was one thing that I was like, yes, I definitely want to share your nuggets and also selfishly learn from you. But for those that don't know your background and whatnot, let's go back a little ways. Let's talk about your origin story. So
Okay.
What were you like as a little boy?
Yeah, so I grew up in Northern Illinois, in farm country, just a dumb farm boy. And that's why I live in Florida now, because I'm never living through winters like that ever again.
My mom's the same way.
It's funny because when I got ready to retire from the Army, all my buddies said, "Okay, you moving back home?" And I said, "Listen to me." I said, "Just because my parents weren't very smart and lived in the North doesn't mean I have to be." But yeah, I grew up in Northern Illinois. I played baseball, basketball, football all through growing up and all through high school. Mm-hmm. And I was I was captain of my teams. I was leader of clubs and organizations, student government, and that. And then I decided I was going to serve in the military. I wanted to be an officer in the Army. So I applied and I got accepted and went off to the United States Military Academy at West Point. And I was there for 2 years, played baseball there. And then my father got sick, so I came home, ran the business for him for a little bit, helped him run the business for about 18 months. And then I finished up in ROTC, which is where I met my wife, who was also in ROTC. She was an Army nurse. And so I did that at Northern Illinois University. And then I became an officer in the Army. So really decided I wanted to be an officer probably about my sophomore, junior year is really where I finally figured out what thought I wanted to do in life.
I love that. Was there a certain experience or a person that you heard from that was an officer? How did you come to that decision?
Yeah, no, there wasn't. I'm the first generation out of my family really to be an officer. And I had two uncles. I had one who was they both served in Vietnam. One was in the Army. He was served in Vietnam and was a staff sergeant in the Army. And then I had a uncle who was in the Navy, and I don't even hold that against him. And so they would tell me stories as I was growing up and I was around them. And it kind of, I was always interested in serving, but then it was really, because even my father and my father-in-law, neither one of them could understand why I chose to do what I did. And I eventually explained it to him this way. I said, look, my father never finished the 5th grade. My mother never finished the 10th grade. Now they went back and got their GEDs, but school-wise, they never finished those grades.
Yeah.
And yet I got to go to the United States Military Academy at West Point, one of the premier education universities in the world. And I retired a lieutenant colonel in the Army. Nowhere else in the world do I happen. Nowhere. I've been in 45 countries on 5 continents. Wow. Nowhere else does somebody like me get to be where I am. Wow. And I always told people, I am serving so that other young men and women, your son or daughter, or somebody else's son or daughter, or my son and daughter, have the same opportunities that I had growing up.
Wow, that's incredible. And it's not easy. I've heard it's not easy at all to get into West Point. So you must have had a lot of great recommendations and worked your tail off in high school.
Well, I did, but I always tell people this story, and this is a true story. And I had a friend, and she volunteered. This was back before computers, so you had to type everything.
Yeah.
Hard to believe. No computers.
I got one of those typewriters.
Yeah, exactly.
My
So she said, I'll help you. I'll type everything that you need. I'll do all the applications, because I applied to all the ROTC scholarships. I applied to all the academies, and she did all the typing for me and everything. And I got in. And so I always tell people I would probably never have gotten into West Point if it wasn't for her. And I had not seen her since we graduated back in 1981, until we just had our 40th reunion. And I went home this summer from our 40th reunion. And that's the first time I'd seen her since we graduated. Wow. And I gave her a copy of my book. I said, because you are a huge reason why I am where I am today. And so I gave her a copy of my book. So.
Oh, that is so neat. I bet she felt super honored. That is awesome.
Yeah, she keeps telling me that it's not true that she didn't help me. I said, believe me, you helped me.
She's humble too. Love that. Yeah. Wow, that's super powerful. And all those countries and all that travel, and you have a heart of gratitude. I can feel it through the screen here. For those that, might be struggling, maybe they're going through a tough season, or maybe they're diagnosed with depression and whatnot, but they connect with your story. Maybe they're an aspiring officer in the military or an officer right now. What are some tips and strategies that you've learned through your journey in keeping a positive mindset for those tough seasons that someone might be going through?
Yeah, and I don't even think it has to be just the military. It could be a leader in any organization, or anybody in any organization. I think a couple things that have always kept me focused, and keep your vision out there, because we're all going to have bad days. We're all going to have bad times. I mean, that's called life. I'm not trying to make light of it. We all do it. I don't care how successful somebody is. They've all gone through some bad times and some rough times. And so I think a couple of things. Number one, you got to maintain some goals, and you got to keep those in focus.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, a couple of things about goals. Number one is, it's not a goal until you write it down. You can believe talk about anything you want, but I believe that for it to be a goal, you have to write it down.
Yep.
And then you have to act on it within the first 24 hours. You got to do something to start down that road. And if you do that, I think then that starts you down that road. And I always tell people, a goal should not be the next step. It should be further down the road. You may not ever get there, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with not ever getting to your goal, as long as you continue to work toward it. But hopefully you do get to it. And it should be, I always like to say, when I make a goal, I try to make it for the perfect world. Of course, we all know there's no such thing as a perfect world. But if you make it for the perfect world, then you can strive. And one of my favorite quotes is by Vince Lombardi. And he said, perfection is unattainable. But if you strive toward perfection, you might get to excellence. And that's good enough.
That's really good.
So I think maintaining goals, and maintaining a good attitude about life. And I'm a Christian. I make no bones about it. I'm a Christian, and so that plays a huge part in my mental in my mindset. And so I always keep a positive mind that that there is a reason I'm here. There is a reason I'm going through things, and it might be just to teach me a lesson that then I can pass on to somebody else down the road. But there is a reason. I believe God has a reason for everybody, and so I keep goals and keep a good mindset, and I think that'll go a long way to helping you get back on the right track and understand what's going on in your life.
I love that. Absolutely. And when you said set a goal and then take action within 24 hours, I immediately thought of Tony Robbins and all of his leadership trainings and everything. Because we might feel super motivated in that high, that mountain state when we're around others that are associated with our like-minded thoughts. But if we wait too long, those feelings go away. So take action immediately. I love that.
Yeah, that was something that somebody, and I don't even remember who taught me that, but it was a long time ago. And they said, look, you got to take action. Otherwise, it's not a goal. It's just an idea. So you got to write it down and you got to take action on it.
Love that. Love that. Second pillar of Move Happy is all about building strong relationships. We know that those who we associate with, it's a huge predictor of our happiness level. And it can also predict our unhappiness if we're hanging around a bunch of negative Nellies and whatnot. I'd imagine in the military and your leadership experience that not everybody is like perfectly joyful and kind and fun to work with and whatnot. But despite that, what have you learned as far as like connecting with the right kinds of people to help sharpen your skill set and keep you motivated to keep moving towards your goals?
Yeah, I think it's very important, and I always try to, and I've always tried to keep this in mind, that you want to surround yourself with people who, number one, are like-minded as you are, have the same kind of goals and the same kind of ambitions in your life that you want those people around you, because they'll push you, that they'll, and sometimes they'll pull you. Sometimes it is even a push. Sometimes somebody that you're associated with is very, very successful, and they'll just pull you along in their success, and that's okay too. You can learn and do things that way. I think you got to have those kind of people that around you, and then I think you got to have people who you can trust. That is so huge in life, and integrity, as I talk about in the book. Integrity is one of those things that my father used to say, nobody can take your integrity away from you. You can give it away, but nobody can take it from you.
Yeah.
So I think, and the problem is that once you do give it away, it's gone.
Yeah.
Those people that are around you, who know you and know that you were not honest or did something that compromised your integrity, that it's never going to be there again. So you got to be really careful about that. So I think, you got to surround yourself with the right people, and you have to maintain some integrity. And I think that goes a long way.
I love that. And integrity is one of my core values. So absolutely 100%. You need to be consistent with that and surround yourself with people that are like that. 100%. That actually brought to mind this last year was my first, I'm still growing as a business owner, only a few years in. And I had my first person on the team that was not full of integrity and had to learn a hard lesson of who I can share information with, who is trustworthy and who isn't. And I've made some huge shifts in the business and associated with more like-minded people. And I think it shut me off for a little bit, building and expanding. I had a team across 3 continents, and I had to go back down to just being solo because I was like, I don't know who to trust.
Yeah. And that's such a bad place to be. I mean, because you want to trust people.
Right.
I mean,
absolutely.
It's human nature that you want to trust people, but you got, there are times when you just got to be careful, and you got to start over at some point sometimes. And unfortunately.
Absolutely. And I was listening to a couple of days ago, I listened to Joel Osteen, sometimes his sermons online, and he talked about, his sermon was on pruning. And when we prune, even though we might not want to cut back, we might not want to be going through a tough season, that's where the growth really happens.
That's right.
And that's what ended up, launching my nonprofit this year, and was able to have, keynote speakers that have worked with former presidents of the United States. And, it was like, amazing. Oh, okay, well, that was a sucky season for a couple of months, but we got over that. And now we're like, whoa, way, way far ahead. So integrity is number one. And I think your brand, who you are established as a human being, the right people will know what the truth is about you. So if you're going through a tough season, if you're listening to the show right now, keep moving forward, keep loving on people. And even the person that wasn't trustworthy, I decided to, it was like a song, they were trying to steal a song, and ruin my reputation and tell everybody I was suicidal. It was pretty bad. Yeah, I wasn't. It was pretty bad. And I was like, you know what? This person obviously is hurting right now if they are going through the trouble of trying to damage my reputation on a global scale. And I'm just loving them from a distance.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think you do have to, you have to understand when you got to figure out when the time is that you got to break
exactly
relations with somebody. And like you said, you can love them from a distance, you can forgive them and all those kinds of things, but you got to have that point where you say, okay, we can't have that same type of relationship anymore. And you got to, and when that time comes, you got to do it. I mean, as painful as it is sometimes, even if you don't want to do it, you got to do it. You really do. If you want to continue to grow and do the right things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. So, building relationships and connecting with the right kinds of people is super key to our happiness and success in business and life in general. And third pillar of happy is all about movement. And we know that it's highly tied to our mood, our happiness, our health. I mean, there's so many benefits to exercise, fitness, dance, sports, etc. I know you mentioned being an athlete in high school and then playing baseball at West Point. Is baseball your favorite activity to move your body, or is there something?
No, not anymore. I mean, I played softball for many years when I was in the Army, because every company puts together a team, and we play in tournaments, whatever, and seasons on post. So I played softball for many years. I don't play any sports anymore for a number of reasons, but one, just because my body's worn out. but so now really what my wife and I do, we go for walks on the beach. It's tough to live in Daytona Beach, Florida. And so we do a lot of walking on the beach and those kinds of things. And then the other thing that I love to do is my other passion. If I'm not working, I'm fishing. I love to fish. So
love that.
Yeah. And not ocean fishing. I go back in the mangroves. I got my yacht, my 17-foot John boat with a 40 horsepower engine. I go back in the mangroves and just, and it's so quiet back there. It's so nice. And it's my time, even if I wasn't catching anything, it's just my time to relax. And I can either do one of two things. I can either let my mind just wander and not think of anything, or I can think about all my issues and start trying to figure out how to solve them.
Yeah.
I used to do that when I used to run, because I used to run a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my time to do that same thing. I could treat it whichever way I wanted to that day. Yeah. But now I don't run anymore, and now I use my fishing time to do that.
There you go. I love that. I love that you have found different ways to move your body and to take care of your mind. That's super important. Let's talk. I know we kind of hinted at this book. Let's talk a little bit more about what's going on in your world, what you're excited about. Like I said earlier, I cannot keep this book down. It's such a neat, honestly, to me, it's simple, practical tips in building yourself, improving yourself as a leader. One in particular that stood out to me was just like, oh, I'm like him. Like I found some similarity, connection in how you present and do public speaking. You have your keywords to kind of help guide you, and you like repeat, memorize until you get so confident that you don't have to look at a script or anything like that. I feel like that is practical for any public speaking or interviewing, or
even if you don't want to be a leader. I mean, I always tell people, the book is about leadership, but I would also argue, and I've had people tell me when they read it, that it's not just about leadership. If you want to be good at a number of things as a follower, or just as a speaker, whatever, that there's a lot of tips in there that could help you do that. And so that makes me and speaking, communication to me is one of the huge things that, and we just don't do a good job of teaching it anymore. We just don't.
I love that. Absolutely. And so for those that are listening to the show and can't see the book, its title is Your Leadership Legacy, Becoming the Leader You Were Meant to Be. And I love that's hardback. Like it's really well done. And your wife is super cute too. She's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So how can people get this? What's the best way they can connect with you?
Yeah. So, so the book is available on Amazon if that's the way you want to do it.
Okay.
And it's available in hardcover, paperback, and ebook. And I'm almost finished with the audiobook.
Nice.
So I'm hoping it will be out by Christmas, but I don't know. But when it is, I'll put it out on all my social media so that everybody knows that it's out and they can get it if they want to.
Awesome.
And I've had about 50 people ask me about an audiobook. So I finally broke down and did it. And I actually read it myself. I was kind of debating whether or not I wanted to do that or not.
Yeah.
So the guy that the studio I was working with, he said, absolutely, you need to. So I did it all except my wife did the forward and she did the introduction. I wanted to have her in there because she's such a huge part of my life. And I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for her, no doubt about it. So you can get the book on Amazon, or you can go to my website at www.ltcoak McCulloch, MCCULLOCH. And there's a book sale. You can go there and that'll take you to the Amazon site. But if you and there are people out there who don't want to use Amazon, I got it. And if you don't want to, then you can contact me through my website, either my phone number or the email.
Yeah.
And we can figure out how to get you a book, even a signed copy.
Yeah, I was going to ask that if they want a signed copy.
Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely. I've sold probably through my website going that way. I've probably, I think about up to about 125, 26 books sold, and every one of them I sell that way. I sign and put a little inscription in. And just went over 1,000 copies sold last week. So
congratulations.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not going to make the New York Times bestseller list, but I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. Absolutely love that. So if they want a signed copy, they'll reach out to you directly on the website or on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all the social media. It's funny because before I wrote this book, I was on no social media whatsoever. And I always said I would never be. And when I wrote the book, my publisher said, "So Oak, which social media are on?" I said, "None." I said, "And I don't want to be." And he said, "I didn't ask." You're going to be on social media. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I have both a professional and a private or personal Facebook. And I've got Instagram and Twitter, although I have no idea what Twitter is. I can't figure that out.
Yeah, I'm still learning it too. I'm still learning.
Yeah,
we're all learning.
That one's beyond me at this point. And my wife keeps telling me I gotta figure it out, and I do, but I just haven't yet.
So a great audio, if you're doing a lot of driving or you prefer audiobooks, is Gary Vaynerchuk's book called Crushing It.
Okay, I've heard of it.
He breaks down each social media platform, and not only that, he has all of his followers, because he's been doing brand building for a couple decades, and he got his fame on YouTube first, and then he's an investor in Facebook and Instagram, all these places. He's on Good Morning America all the time. He has his testimonials of his followers, his fans give their own story of how they use the different platforms and the success that they've had in their business growth. So he explains the Twitter one, kind of like the water cooler feel.
Right.
He gives the $1.80 strategy and whatnot in the audiobook. He gives a lot of free information away on his social media as well. But that
okay, good. Crushing it, right?
Yeah, I've listened to it probably 10 times, and I owe it. There's so much information that you can't get it all in one listen. So
okay, good.
I really recommend that. Absolutely.
That sounds good. I appreciate that, Erin.
No problem. I always love to close out the show with, a fun, impromptu question to help, my audience kind of get to know you on an even more personal level, though you've shared a lot already. Let's talk about your favorite thing about your wife that is super unique.
Yeah. So you got to understand how we met. So met in ROTC, and during our 2 years in ROTC together, we never went out on a date.
What?
Never went on a date. We could tell we liked each other, but every time when she wasn't seeing somebody, I was, and I was, so it just never worked out. So 2 weeks after she graduated, she graduated 6 months before I did. 2 weeks after she graduated, we went out on our first date. And I think that was May 14th.
Okay.
So May 14th, we went out on our date. We were engaged on the 2nd of July, and we were married in January. So, and that was 34 years ago. So, so I think we did okay. And I always tell people, I don't know why she married me, but now after 34 years, she doesn't have time to train anybody else. She's stuck with me. So, but I am today who I am because of her. She has a huge part she's played in that. And I think that one of my favorite things about her is just the honesty that we have between each other. If I'm doing something that bugs her, she has no problems telling me that.
Love it.
And that's okay, because otherwise we don't know. If somebody doesn't tell you that you're bugging them, or that you're not doing something that they want you to do, then if they don't tell you, then that's as much their fault as yours, because you don't know that that's bugging them or that they want you to do it. So I think that's one of the favorite things I have about my wife and our relationship, is just that we are just so honest with each other. And I always tell people, this is the advice I give every married couple. Be careful what you say, because once you say it, it can never be taken back. It's always out there. So, before you open your mouth, think about what you're saying, and if you really, really want to say that. And she and I have kind of lived by that, and it's worked out well for us. Doesn't mean that we haven't had some disagreements in 34 years, because we certainly have, but we've always lived by that be careful what you say. Make sure that you think about what you say before you let it come out of your mouth.
Yeah, I love that. Kind candor. It's kind of
yeah, and believe me, she has no problem hurting my feelings. And that's good. I mean, I always say that, she's my best friend, and she's my best critic as well. So she has no problems telling me when I'm not doing the right thing.
I love that so much. Well, thank you again so much. This has been amazing. We definitely need to have you back on a follow-up session, maybe when the audiobook gets released.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, Erin. You just tell me when. I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you. It's been awesome.